my fellow Malawians, have you ever heard the saying, truth walks on bare feet, but always reaches the market before lies even find their shoes? Well, today truth seems to be jogging, and the one holding the loudspeaker is none other than Bon Kalindo himself. Yes, the man who never whispers when he can shout. So, picture this. It's 24th October 2025, and Malawi social media is already on fire. Bon Kalindo has stepped up again. This time, why shosha ya imfa ya Chilima ija? He's shaken the dust off that tragedy we thought had settled. You know the one, the crash that took Vice President Saulos Chilima and others. For many, the story had gone quiet, locked in official reports and forgotten whispers. But not for Kalindo. Bwana, not for this man. With his trademark fire, sarcasm, and that fearless tone that makes half the country cheer and the other half sweat, Kalindo is asking the question everyone was too polite to repeat. Kodi ive tukufuna kufa tilichete kapina kufunza chilungamo? Do we want to die in silence or demand justice? He is throwing verbal grenades, my friends, straight at the system, the reports and the silence that has hung over the Chilima crash like fog over Chikangawa. And the best part? He's doing it with that unapologetic blend of truth and madness we all secretly enjoy. So today on @Global Pulse News, we're breaking it down. 5 powerful facts that reveal why Bon Kalindo's latest outburst isn't just noise, it's a national wake-up call. Grab your tea, hold on to your data bundles, because this, my friends, is fire with purpose. Let's dive into fact number 1. June 10th, 2024, a date that still feels like an unhealed wound. The skies above Lilongwe were gray, the air heavy like a secret waiting to drop. Vice President Saulos Chilima, vibrant, sharp, and full of that Malawian drive, boarded the Malawi Defense Force Donia 28. Destination, Mzuzu, for the funeral of a former minister. Purpose, duty to the people. Fate, that's where the clouds turned cruel. The plane took off from Kamuzu International Airport around 9 a.m. People waved, unaware they were waving goodbye. Within an hour, communication vanished. The pilot tried to reroute, radio signals dropped, and soon after, silence. When word came that the wreckage had been found in Chikangawa Forest, hearts across Malawi broke at once. Mbaleanga, it wasn't just a crash, it was the fall of confidence, the moment hope trembled. 10 lives gone, and among them the one man many saw as the next big leader, the one who spoke softly but fought loudly for reform. The radio stations went quiet, social media flooded with prayer emojis and disbelief. Churches filled up, candles were lit, songs turned into tears. But you know how we say, Chowuma sichibisika maji, what is dry cannot hide underwater. From day one, people began whispering, was it just bad weather? Why did it take so long to find the wreck? Why was communication lost for so long? And as the days passed, those whispers grew teeth. That tragedy didn't just kill 10 souls, it birthed 10,000 questions. And now, over a year later, Bon Kalindo has picked those questions from the dust and hurled them right back at the government. Because, bwana, in Malawi when pain goes unanswered, it grows wings. And Kalindo, he's chasing those wings with a megaphone. Let's move to fact number 2. The official story versus the people's suspicion.
When the Chilima crash happened, the official line came faster than minibus gossip on a Friday morning. Within hours, the government said it was bad weather. Full stop. The Malawi Defense Force confirmed that the pilot had been told not to land in Mzuzu because visibility was poor, and when he turned back, communication was lost. Case closed, But my fellow Malawians, we know that ntano za boma zimabwera ndi mpika osapika. Government stories sometimes come half-cooked. People started sniffing around and something didn't smell right. First, the timing. It took more than 24 hours to locate the wreck, yet villagers from Chikangawa said they saw smoke the same morning. One old man told a reporter, "Tinamva pokoso ngati chimpona chikutuluka mumtengo." We heard a noise like a giant leaving the forest. Still, such teams spent the whole day flying in circles. Were they searching for truth or hiding from it? Then came the talk about the plane's transponder, that small device that makes planes visible to radar. Aviation insiders whispered that it wasn't working properly before takeoff. Others claimed Chilima's plane had been due for maintenance, but those details swept under the rug like crumbs after supper. And while the official report blamed bad weather, many Malawians couldn't ignore the timing. Chilima had just been cleared of corruption charges, ready to return to politics stronger than ever. You know how our elders say, if the drum beats too loud, the storm will soon follow. So people asked, could fate really be this coincidental? Still, the government kept its tone cool, polished statements, slow answers, and polite silences. But the people, they started murmuring in markets, in churchyards, on WhatsApp groups. Yeah, bwana, siza chilendo easy. And that's when Bon Kalindo entered the chat, microphone in hand, sarcasm loaded, ready to speak what many were thinking but afraid to say. Because when the system says it's over, Kalindo says, not so fast, my friend. Let's move to fact number 3. Bon Kalindo, the firebrand reignites the flames. October 24th, 2025. Malawi social feeds started buzzing like a beehive after rain. Bon Kalindo washosha yemfa ya Chilima ija, people posted. The activist, entertainer, and certified trouble starter had once again opened his mouth, and every quiet corner of the nation suddenly had an opinion. Standing before microphones, eyes blazing, he asked questions that sliced through official politeness like a sharp panga. Kodi ife tukufuna kukala dziko la kuyangani la mabodza, kapena dziko la chilungamo? Do we want to be a nation that watches lies or one that seeks justice? And he wasn't whispering. His tone had that familiar blend of anger and comedy, the kind that makes people laugh even while they nod in agreement. He reminded everyone how Chilima was a symbol of youthful energy and reform, a man who could jog 5 kilometers and still argue policy. He questioned how such a figure could vanish from the sky with no one giving convincing answers. Even birds know when a storm is coming, he said, so how come our systems didn't? My fellow Malawians, you could feel the discomfort across the corridors of power. Ministers started clearing their throats in interviews, government spokespeople repeated the old weather story, but this time, their voices wavered like weak radio signal. Social media went wild, some cheering, some rolling their eyes, some saying, Kalindo wangu funa attention. But one thing became clear. He had reignited a national conversation that had cooled too quickly. And the man did not stop there. He called on churches, civic groups, even student unions to demand full disclosure of flight maintenance records, pilot communications, and the black box transcript. Chilima's ghost is hunting us because we buried truth together with him. That statement hit hard, eh? It turned the Chilima case from a quiet investigation into a bonfire of accountability. And whether people loved or loathed Kalindo, they were listening. Because, as we say, when one man shouts truth in the market, others start checking their baskets. Now let's see what he actually said that made Malawi gasp. Fact number 4. Kalindo's claims and the nation's shock. When Bon Kalindo opens his mouth, Malawi listens. Partly in fear, partly in fascination, and mostly because, you never know what he'll say next. But on 24 October 2025, what he said wasn't just noise, it was dynamite wrapped in humor. Standing before a restless crowd, Kalindo declared that the truth about Saulos Chilima's death had been edited like a cheap movie script. His words, not mine. He accused certain big hands, you know how Malawians nod when that phrase is used, of sweeping key details under the carpet. He shouted, Kodi ndege imata kugwa motele osasi ya umboni? Can a plane crash like that and leave no trace of truth? The man was on fire. He talked about missing documents, unanswered questions about the plane's maintenance, and delayed search operations. According to Kalindo, ngati boma siri kufuna kuona chongonadi, tizali tanyali ife. The government won't turn on the light, we will light the lamp ourselves. The crowd erupted, clapping and cheering like they'd been waiting for someone to say it aloud. Social media, of course, went mad. Hashtags like #TruthForChilima and #KalendoSpeaks flooded timelines. Videos of his fiery speech spread faster than market gossip after payday. Even the usually cautious radio hosts were replaying his quotes on air. But this outburst didn't just stir the public, it rattled the powerful. Civil officials dismissed his claims as baseless emotional talk, yet you could sense the nervous energy in their responses. Civil rights groups jumped in, calling for transparency and warning against silencing whistleblowers. The irony, though, while Kalindo was being called dramatic, many citizens quietly admitted he was voicing what they'd whispered for over a year. Kalindo akupolpa mpepo yochoka mumtima mwa antu. Kalindo is blowing the wind that comes from the people's hearts. His speech reminded everyone that truth doesn't die. It just waits for someone brave or crazy enough to shout it out loud. But my fellow Malawians, shouting is one thing. What comes after the shouting? That brings us to fact number 5, the aftermath and the call for justice. After Kalindo's explosive outburst on 24 October, Malawi didn't just listen. Malawi moved. His words echoed through parliament corridors, church pulpits, radio call-in shows, and even in the line at the maize mill. Everyone had something to say. Ebana, even the quiet ones started whispering again. Civil society groups like CHRR and Youth Decide Malawi released statements calling for a reopened inquiry into the Chilima crash. The people deserve closure, they said, and for once, even the most politically tired citizens nodded. Opposition parties began to smell opportunity too. Some called Kalindo reckless, others called him brave. Either way, he had broken the national silence like a drumbeat at midnight. Meanwhile, the government scrambled to control the narrative. Officials said the commission of inquiry had already concluded, but the tone wasn't as confident as before. Ministers started promising transparency, dialogue, and further consultations. Those sweet words we know too well, But as one blunt-eyed caller said on radio, "Ai ife takana nyimbo ya kale, tipempa remix yowona." No, we don't want the old song. We demand the real remix. And for the ordinary Malawian, Kalindo's cry wasn't just political, it was personal. People remembered where they were when the Chilima crash was announced. They remembered that mix of shock and disbelief, and they realized maybe closure never really came. Kalindo, with his loud voice and stubborn heart, had reopened that wound, not to hurt, but to heal. Now, activists are pushing for reforms in aviation safety, emergency response, and public accountability. Some even suggest honoring Chilima's legacy by naming those reforms after him. The Chilima Transparency Act, imagine that. So whether you love or loathe Kalindo, one thing stands true. He forced Malawi to look back, not out of pain, but out of duty. Because, my friends, when a nation dares to face its reflection, that's when change begins. Let's wrap this up with the fire that started it all, our outro and call to action. My fellow Malawians, what we've witnessed isn't just another political headline. It's the sound of a nation refusing to sleep under the blanket of silence. Bon Kalindo, love him or hate him, has reminded us that truth doesn't retire just because it makes people uncomfortable. You see, when someone shouts fire, the wise man doesn't argue. He checks where the smoke is coming from. Kalindo's voice might be loud, but behind that volume lies something powerful, a heartbeat that says we deserve answers. Whether the government listens or not, the people have already awakened. The Chilima crash was a tragedy that took 10 lives, but if it pushes us towards justice, safety, and accountability, then maybe, just maybe, it can still give something back to the living. As a nation, we owe it to ourselves to ensure that our leaders don't just serve, they answer. So my friends, if you believe in that kind of truth, click subscribe, smash that like button, and share this video. Let's keep the fire burning until justice stops being a slogan and starts being a habit.
And don't forget to check out our sister channels at Sparkling Kids and at Raima Fatima for fun, creative, and inspiring content for the little ones. Because even as we demand truth, we must still raise hope for the next generation. This is Global Pulse News, where courage meets clarity and truth walks proudly, barefoot but unstoppable.